All right, parents, let's talk about toxins. You know, those tiny, little, hidden, freaking everywhere, pervasive, health-destroying little suckers that for us naturally healthy-minded parents become the source of both our frustration and exhaustion. Because let's be honest, once you know, you know. What am I talking about here? Freaking everything from processed foods to pesticides, preservatives to Roundup to glyphosate to gluten to dairy to microplastics, seed oils, heavy metals, you name it. So many are impossible to pronounce, but they're everywhere. Cleaning products, food, water, detergents, makeup, skincare. Goodness gracious, chemicals and toxins are everywhere. And we're living in this bigger toxic load or toxic soup than ever before. And it's important that as parents, we know for sure how they negatively impact our kids' health and development and are contributing to this pandemic or epidemic where over half of kids today have chronic illness and most of them have multiple chronic illnesses. So in this video, we're going to explore exactly how environmental toxins contribute to this total load theory and negatively impact your child's nervous system, immune system, digestive system, and overall health and development. But we will also cover, most importantly, the conversation no one else is having. See, we aren't just exposed to higher levels of toxins and chemicals than ever before. I gotta tell you the truth. Toxins, chemicals have been around for 3, 4, you could maybe even run the math to 5 to 6 generations. From the 30s to 40s and the Industrial Revolution, you could actually argue that toxins and chemicals were more pervasive in our drinking supply, in our environment a couple of generations ago than they are today. And you could definitely argue that this generation, our generation of parents, awesomely has more awareness, more understanding, and has made far more moves to get rid of toxins in our food. We've gone organic. We've made the diet changes. You've probably already gone gluten-free, casein-free. Maybe you have spent thousands of dollars with functional, holistic practitioners doing stool samples, blood work, hair samples, and all the different cell core, detox kits, elimination diets, you name it. You're probably aware of it at least, and you've probably spent thousands of dollars, many months, and many of you families, many years trying to address this toxic load and toxic burden and get those dang chemicals out of your kid's body because you've learned the science that is absolutely true, that those chemicals overstress the nervous system. They cause the nervous system to be stressed out. They cause the body to be completely inflamed. They cause the gut to be an absolute mess. The gut is connected to the brain, and I could go on, and I'm going to in this video to connect the dots to how this toxic load and toxic burden and all the toxins in our environment contribute to ADHD, autism, sensory anxiety, seizures, pandas, PANS, asthma, allergies, autoimmune disorders, you name it. Toxins are a big deal, but they're not the whole story. Because if we stay with my story that I'm spinning here, which is very, very true, and we combine it with the neuroscience that's really actually behind the dramatic rise in chronic illness in kids in just the last 1 to 2 to 3 generations, then you'll see from this video, and perhaps I'll be the first person ever and only to tell you the entire truth, toxins are a big deal, but they're not the whole freaking story. See, our kids are also exposed to today higher levels of stress than ever before. Now, when I say that word, you think stress? That's a big deal for us as parents, as adults. Yeah, it's us parents and it's us adults that get together, and I'll skip this part as far as the exact neuroscience behind it. That's where fertility, conception, fetal in utero development of the baby's brain and nervous system comes from. It's the stress in our entire lives in aggregate that is higher than ever before. And that is a factor that sets up the body to become more easily burdened by chemicals and toxins. Also, there's one more theory that needs to ride right along with this toxic load and toxic burden concept. And that's the one that I've created called the perfect storm. Now, the perfect storm absolutely brings in toxins and environmental chemicals as trigger number 3. Now, the reason I say trigger number 3, because in chronological sequential order as to what we now know is really truly fueling the epidemic rise in chronic illness from everything from autism to autoimmune conditions, there's 2 different kinds of stressors that show up first in your child's life. We now know that high stress pregnancies, not just high risk, but just high stress period, fertility and pregnancy journeys impact the developing brain and nervous system in utero. If that pregnancy environment neurologically, not just chemically, yes, do chemicals get across the blood-brain barrier? Do chemicals go in the umbilical cord? Is there a study that shows that over 200 of them do? Yes, but so does stress. So when we're in a high stress environment during pregnancy, fertility, now our child's brain and nervous system already foundationally is shifted to what's called sympathetic fight or flight dominance, something I'm going to teach you in this video. Nervous system dysregulation and dysautonomia and subluxation are these catch-all terms that come from that high stress scenario. But there's one more son of a gun that nobody's talking about, and that is physical injury and birth trauma to the brainstem during labor and delivery when intervention is present. And sometimes that's just the way birth is for our little beautiful babies, coming head and neck first. Ideally, breech position is a big deal in this conversation, through the birth canal and into this world. There is a lot of physical stress and strain placed upon the delicate neurological and neuromuscular tissues of the brainstem, the cranial system, and the neck. And that is where all nervous system regulation, digestive function, inflammatory modulation, social emotional speech and communication, gross motor and fine motor development, tone, and coordination is all regulated from. So parents, I'm right in the thick of it, right in the first 5 to 10 minutes of this very important, life-changing video that if you need to watch it twice, I want you to, because no one else is having this chat. So it's going to be wildly simple, but also wildly, oh my goodness, why did no one tell me that before? It's so in-depth because it's really bringing these 2 conversations of stress neurologically and toxins environmentally together. And most people, and conventional pediatricians, by the way, aren't having either of these conversations. They've dismissed all of this and said, we don't know what's causing autism. We think it's just genetic. And now they're kind of like, and a little, maybe a little environmental, but they don't know. We do know. But if you have been told it's all toxins and the toxic load is the only story, and it's your MTHFR and it's your child's detox pathways, and you need to get that going to get their gut brain and their inflammation and then get their brain and nervous system better. And you've gone all the way down that road and you've spent all those thousands of dollars and you've made the diet perfect and there isn't a freaking chemical within 2 counties of your child. Well, then why are they still sick? And it's because their nervous system is still dysregulated, subluxated, and what's called dysautonomic. So dig in with this video. Please share this video on all those amazing, crunchy, natural, holistic Facebook groups you are in. I'm in them too. My family lives that way too. But we also take care of our children's nervous systems. And that's what we do with our practice. That's why we experience miracles like no one else in healthcare. Traditional, natural, holistic, functional, integrative. You're going to see in this video that neurologically focused chiropractic care is the one group of professionals who is telling parents the whole truth. Let's just run that analogy out. Nothing but the truth. And both theories are true. The toxic load, toxic burden, and the perfect storm. This is going to be a longer video than usual, but you need to know about the nervous system dysregulation part of this conversation. And foundationally, that's what needs to get fixed, repaired, and taken care of first to then get the gut, the inflammation, and the detox pathways back online. So your bodies, your kids' bodies can get rid of the chemicals that maybe you can't go back in time and prevent them from being exposed to before, but you know they're still stuck in there because you've spent all those thousands of dollars on the labs and the detox kits, and then you rerun the tests and they're still there and your kid's still sick and your kid's still stressed. So this is the conversation you've been up late at night searching, scrolling, and praying for. Give me a few more minutes in the meat of this video to get into the neuroscience of both the toxic load and toxic burden theory and the perfect storm neurological theory at the same time. Let's go. All right, first, let's just give you a really simple breakdown of what the toxic load or total load theory says. Another nerd word for it is what is called allostatic load, which is what I've been trained in my whole career as a pediatric nervous system focused chiropractor and natural health expert. So the total load theory says our body is basically, our children's body is basically like a bucket. Imagine their nervous system, their immune system, their digestive system, which those three systems really work together in this conversation. Imagine there's a bucket by with which all this crap, all this crud can get into. So different environmental chemicals, wherever they come from, and we do know they're coming from all angles way too early, way too often in our kids' life. If all of those toxins go into the bucket, as long as this bucket of adaptability, detoxification, and as long as we can continue to drain and eliminate and get that bucket to not overfill, you actually don't get symptoms and conditions. So God designed us knowing that stress and chemicals and physical injuries, they were going to be a part of life. So our kids are actually way more resilient and adaptable than maybe even us natural health people would say, where we get so overwhelmed with fear and anxiety about toxins and chemicals once we learn about them. That's what I actually was really getting at with the opening of this video, where it's both exciting because you're like, man, when I learn about toxins and environmental chemicals, this could be part of why, or a main reason why my kiddo is so sick. But as you get going with it, it almost causes you and your family more stress and anxiety than ever before, because now you live in this fear. Oh my gosh, gluten, dairy, red dye number 40. It's just, why? Sugar. How am I going to keep this away from my child in today's world? Well, what if there's a conversation within the conversation of this toxic load and total load theory that says, well, how do we not only do everything we can to avoid all these toxins and chemicals, but how do we give our kiddos a bigger bucket? And so the total load theory says that when the bucket overfills, that's where the nervous system gets stressed out, that's where the gut and the microbiome gets messed up, and that's where the body becomes stuck with this inflammation, because there's too many toxins burdened and stuck in the body. So it makes sense that you probably already have gone deep down the cell core detox, whether you did it with supplementation or homeopathic intervention or all of the above, infrared saunas. We don't really do that with our kiddos, thankfully. I bet so many of you have already gone to great lengths to try and detox your kids' bodies. You've maybe done all the stool samples, hair tests, blood work, lab work, integrative, functional. You probably spent thousands of dollars, and you've got 38-page printouts that says your child has too many toxins. Maybe you're in the MTHFR conversation. Maybe you're in the Lyme's conversation, the co-infections conversation, the pandas and pans conversation, and you have spent thousands of dollars on testing and thousands more on supplements, detox kits, homeopathics, essential oils. You've thrown the book at trying to get your kiddos, I was going to say nervous system because that's where I'm going next, immune system and elimination system to get these chemicals and toxins out of the body. And despite all that, you run the labs again, you run the tests again, and more importantly than the labs or the tests, which are very important, you look at life and your kid's still struggling to sleep. Your kid's still struggling with sensory spectrum, anxiety, emotional behavioral dysregulation, social and emotional challenges. They're still struggling with gut health. Maybe they're still even chronically sick. You can see they're congested all the time. They've got bags under their eyes. So you've gone after these toxins naturally, holistically, from a detox supplement kit standpoint, but you can't get rid of them. That means there's another total load, toxic load, or what we call perfect storm conversation that today in this video might be the most important conversation you've not yet heard, which means your child's nervous system is overwhelmed with stress. Now that's called subluxation. It's actually the same, we'll call it neurophysics or kind of neurometrics with this conversation. Just like there's too many toxins in today's world and our kids and their sensitive immune systems and guts become overwhelmed with toxins, there's also more stress during the fertility, pregnancy, and there's more physical intervention and high stress around labor and delivery than ever before. And then that stress spreads. We're just in this more high stress, high anxiety, high sympathetic dominant, no rest, no relaxation, no regulation society. And even if it was environmental chemicals and toxins, either ingested, inhaled, injected, or all three, that initially triggered your child's nervous system to go into this stuck, overwhelmed, too much fight or flight, what's called subluxated, dysregulated state. Even if it was toxins and chemicals that originally triggered it, the nervous system responds to stress in the same way, whether it's physical, chemical, or emotional. It gets stuck. It literally, physically gets stuck. Have you ever seen your kiddo when they're trying to sleep but can't, when they're in a meltdown or a tantrum or anxiety or pandas flare, or just super, super wound up? Have you ever just seen physically, neuromuscularly, how tense they are? Does it help them to get a big squeeze, to get a big hug, to get manual care, to get that heavy weighted blanket? That is a sign that from what we would call a neurophysical subluxation standpoint, that's where the body is still stuck. There's no supplement, there's no diet change, and there's no detox kit that addresses that foundational root cause. But this subluxation, nervous system dysfunction, dysregulation, and what's called dysautonomia, what it does to the body is it shuts down gut motility. It leaves the immune system dysregulated and in a pro-inflammatory state. And it absolutely cuts off and chokes off our kids' bodies' detoxification and elimination pathways. So as long as this subluxation, sympathetic dominance, dysregulation, and what's called dysautonomia, neurological problem is still there for your child, no matter how many thousands of dollars you spend on detox kits and supplements, no matter how many diet changes or which diet you change and you select, and no matter how awesomely perfect, which we champion like crazy, you get all the chemicals out of your pantry, out of your house, and out of your kids' foods and environment, they may still stay stuck with this toxic load and toxic burden of chemicals in their body, because the nervous system and its ability to regulate is the most important thing that controls detoxification and elimination. So I know I went to great lengths and very detailed and went through intentionally the same conversation 3 times over to tell you we're not just exposed to more toxins and more chemicals than ever before. Our kids are exposed to more stress on their nervous systems, and there's more nervous system dysregulation showing up in our kids' lives and development more often and more early than ever before. And the missing link to get that nervous system reset, release that tension so that the body can release those toxins, is what's called neurologically focused chiropractic care. This is vividly, markedly different than standard spinal musculoskeletal chiropractic care. Nervous system focused chiropractic care knows exactly how to get in and release that stuck subluxation and sympathetic tension on the body. And we know how to stimulate and activate what's called the vagus nerve and the parasympathetic system, which is in charge of rest, so sleep and recovery, relaxation of the body, but most importantly, also regulation, detoxification, and social, emotional, behavioral regulation as well. So this kind of nervous system focused chiropractic, what I find is so essential and the missing foundational key to root cause healing for families that haven't just exhausted traditional medical care, but have already gone to great lengths to work on the toxic burden, the toxic load, remove all the toxins, change all the diets, and they've spent all the thousands of dollars on detox kits. It's your child's nervous system that holds the key to their full and complete healing. If you need more information about exactly how this process works, and most importantly, how you can get connected to our practice or our pxdocs network, which is nervous system focused pediatric and family chiropractors who know all about the toxic load and all about the perfect storm at the same time, and are now worldwide, you can follow the links with this video or in our bio and on our website and get connected to a consultation, an examination, and most importantly, just the resources and information that will finally give you those full, complete answers you've been up late at night searching and scrolling for, that says, this is really why my kids are so sick. Is it toxins? Heck yes. Is it a stressed out, dysregulated, sympathetic dominant, overwhelmed nervous system? Absolutely, heck yes, as well. And that may need to get taken care of first to get your child's detox pathways back online and finally get those chemicals and that toxic burden out of their body.